If you're a rising junior and senior in high school, this is probably around the time of year where you're starting to study for the SATs, which is arguably going to be the most important test you take in your entire high school career. So you really want to make sure you do well on it. And I find that one of the best ways to study is by seeing someone who actually knows what they're doing do the actual thing. So today I'm going to walk through the math section of the SAT, specifically the no calculator section. Back when I took the SAT in high school, I got a 1570, a 770 in reading and writing, and an 800 in math, which is a perfect score. So I'd say I know a thing or two about taking the math section of the SAT. So today you guys can watch as I go through one of the math tests on my own, and you guys can kind of just watch my thought processes and see how I approach the section. So let's get right into it. All right, math test, no calculator, 25 minutes, 20 questions. That means you have a little bit more than a minute per question, but hopefully we can finish this pretty quickly. All right, question 1, if x minus 1 over 3 equals k and k equals 3, what is the value of x? We can kind of just substitute in x minus 1 over 3 equals 3. We can multiply by 3 on both sides. X minus 1 equals 9, and then we can add 1 on both sides. X equals 10, and that's just so you can cancel everything out. So answer choice D, 10. All right, for I equals square root of negative 1, what is the sum of 7 plus 3i plus 8 plus negative 8 plus 9i? Yeah, so we can kind of just combine like terms essentially. So 7 minus 8 is negative 1. 3 plus 9 is 12i plus answer choice A for this one. Negative 1 plus 12i. On a Saturday afternoon, Armand sent M text messages each hour for 5 hours, and Tyrone sent P text messages each hour for 4 hours, which of the following represents the total number of messages sent by Armand and Tyrone on Saturday afternoon. M messages for 5 hours and P messages for 4 hours. It's going to be answer choice C, 5M plus 4P. Pretty straightforward there. The number of phones left to fix. P equals 108 minus 23D, where P is the number of phones left and D is the number of days she has worked that week. So that means 108 is the number of phones that they're starting out with, which is answer choice B. X squared y minus 3y squared plus 5xy squared minus negative x squared y plus 3xy squared minus 3y squared. So again, we're just going to be combining like terms here. So x squared minus x squared y, which is going to be plus. So we're going to have 2x squared y, and then 3xy squared. It's going to go with the 5xy squared. And this is a plus 3xy. But since we have this minus here, it's going to be negative. So 5 minus 3, that's going to be 2xy squared. And then negative 3y squared minus 3y squared, which is going to be plus 3y squared. So those are going to cancel out. Because if you have 3y squared minus 3y squared, that's going to be plus. That's just going to go to 0. So this is actually your answer, which is C. Pediatrician uses the model to estimate the height H, boy's age A, between the ages of 2 and 5. Based on the model, what is the estimated increase in inches of a boy's height each year? Okay, so if A is the age in years, and you want to see the increase each year, it's going to be this 3 because that's the coefficient for A. So for A equals 1, so that's for 1 year, you're going to have 3 times 1, so you grew 3 inches that year. If like you're 3, you're going to have 3 times 3, which is 9. So answer choice A for this one. Oh boy, a lot of things going on in this one. The formula above gives the monthly payment M needed to pay off a loan of P dollars at R% annual interest over N months. Which of the following gives P in terms of M, R, and N? All right, so we have our P here and our M here. And basically we would just want to rearrange everything so that the P is by itself. So what we can do is take this term, and since it's in the denominator on this side, we can multiply to bring it over to this side. And then likewise, we're going to take this part, since it's on the numerator now, we can divide it to bring it over on this side. So that essentially means that when we bring this fraction over to the other side, the numerator and denominator are going to be switched, essentially. It's going to be answer choice B. If A over B equals 2, what is the value of 4B over A? So if A over B is 2, that means B over A is the inverse of that, which is going to be 1/2. You can kind of just plug that in for 4B over A. 4 times 1/2, which is 2. Answer choice C for this one. Number 9, 3x plus 4y equals negative 23, 2y minus x equals negative 19. What is the solution xy to the system of equations above? Okay, is there an easy way for me to do this, or am I gonna have to do it all out? I guess I'll just do it out. So systems of equations, you can either do substitution or elimination. I think here substitution is probably gonna be the easiest. So what we can do is take this 2y and bring it over here. So then that will give us negative x equals negative 19 minus 2y, and then divide by negative 1 to cancel out the negative sign on both sides. So we'll have x equals 19 plus 2y, and then we can substitute it back into here, the original. So we'll have 3, 19 plus 2y plus 4y equals negative 23. 3 times 19 is 57. 3 times 2 is 6. Equals negative 23, and then this will be 10y, and when we subtract by 57 on this side, we're going to get negative 80, and then if we divide by 10 on both sides, because we have this 10, we'll get y equals negative 8, which is going to give us answer choice B, because we have negative 8 in the y position. Not too bad there. All right, g of x equals ax squared plus 24 for the function g defined above. A is a constant and g4 equals 8. What is the value of g negative 4? So if g of 4 equals 8, so that's where x equals 4, we can substitute it into this equation, where we'll have 8 equals a4 squared plus 24. 8 equals a times 16 plus 24, and then we can subtract by 24, so we'll get negative 16 equals a times 16, and then if we divide by 16, we'll get a equals negative 1. So now we know a is negative 1, so if we do g of negative 4, we can substitute that into this equation, where we'll have negative 1, negative 4 squared plus 24. This will be positive 16, and then when we multiply by the negative 1, this will be negative, and then plus 24 we'll get 8, so that'll be A. B equals 2.35 plus 0.25x, C equals 1.75 plus 0.4x, and the equations above B and C represent the price per pounds chicken, beef and chicken, X weeks after July. What was the price per pound of beef when it was equal to the price per pound of chicken? When the prices are equal, that's where B equals C. So we can set the two equations equal to each other. So we'll get 2.35 plus 0.25x equals 1.75 plus 0.40x. And basically all we need to do now is just isolate the x. So we can subtract by 1.7 on both sides. And that'll give us, I think, 0.6 plus 0.25x equals 0.40x, and then we subtract by 0.25x, and then we'll get 0.6 equals 0.15x, and then if we divide by 0.15, we'll get x equals 4. And then what are we looking for? Price per pound of beef, which is this equation, so we can plug that in. 0.254, this will be 1. 2.35 plus 1 is going to give us 3.35. So the answer is D. A line in the xy plane passes through the origin and has a slope of y over 7. Which of the following points lies on the line? So if it passes through the origin, that means it goes through 0, 0, and its slope is 1 over 7. So if we model this in y equals mx plus b form, we're going to get y equals 1 over 7x plus 0, because it passes through the origin, but I'm scared of that. So we're looking for which one of these is true. So when we plug in the x, we should get the y. So 0 times 1/7 is not 7. 1 times 1/7 is not 7. 7 times 1/7 is 1, not 7. 14 times 1/7 is 2. So this is going to be D. If x is greater than 3, which of the following is equivalent to 1 over blah, 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 blah. Okay, so since these guys are in the denominator, and then since they're like fractions within the denominator, what we can do is multiply the entire thing by a common term to make everything cancel out. So what we could do is multiply this entire thing by x plus 2, x plus 3, x plus 2, x plus 3. And this is so, well, this term right here is still equal to 1 since the numerator and denominator are the same thing. So we're not actually changing anything of the equation itself. But what you will find is that by doing that, you can kind of like pair these. And when you multiply it out, you'll get this x plus 2 will stay on the top. Yeah. And then when we multiply this, for example, if we do this times this, we'll get like x plus 2, x plus 3 over x plus 2. And this cancels out. So you would just be left with x plus 3. And the same applies to the other side. So we will get x plus 2 plus x plus 3, which is equal to 2x plus 5. And answer choice B is the only one that has 2x plus 5 in the denominator, so we know that one's correct. Okay, if 3x minus y equals 12, what is the value of 8 to the x divided by 2 to the y? So this actually works out because we have 3x minus y equals 12, and then we have this 8x and this 2y. And if you have your powers memorized, you'll know that 8 equals 2 to the third. So this is actually equivalent to, this 8x is equivalent to 2 to the 3 times x, which is 2 to the 3x. And then so when we're dividing by 2y, you can think of it as 2 to the 3x minus y, since we're doing a division. And that's how you divide with exponents. We have 2 to the 3x minus y, which as we can see from this equation is equal to 12. So we'll get 2 to the 12th, which is answer choice A. 15, if ax plus 2 times bx plus 7 equals 15x squared plus cx plus 14 for all values of x, and a plus b equals 8, what are the two possible values for c? Well, if we want to find values for c, we can start by expanding this out. Basically how that works is just you're just gonna FOIL this, where you multiply it out. And then, so you should get abx squared plus 7ax plus 2bx plus 14. This right here is equal to this right here. And then we want to find values for c. We know a plus b equals 8, and if these two are equivalent, then that means ab is equal to 15. If this says a plus b equals 8, that also means that b equals 8 minus a. And if we plug that into this equation, we'll get this, which will give you a squared minus 8a plus 15 equals 0. This can be factored to a minus 3, a minus 5, because negative 3 plus negative 5 is negative 8, and negative 3 times negative 5 is 15. So that means a can be 3 or a can be 5. And then if we have a plus b equals 8, that means b also can either be 3 or 5. We still need to find values for c. So if we do a equals 3 and b equals 5, which would make a plus b equals 8 true. Okay, so we can go back here and then do 3x plus 2, 5x plus 7, and that will factor out to 15x squared plus 31 plus 14. And then you could alternatively do 5x plus 2 and 3x plus 7, which will factor to 41. So that means C is either 31 or 41, which is answer choice D. T is greater than 0, t squared minus 4 equals 0. So that means t squared equals 4. And since t is greater than 0, which means it can't be negative, the only answer you can have is 2. Because you could have negative 2, but t has to be greater than 0, so you can't do that. So it will have to be just 2. Find a length x in feet across a lake as represented in the sketch. The lengths represented by AB, EB, BD, and CD. AB, so this part here is 1800, and then EB is 1400, BD is 700, and CD is 800. And it says AEB and CDB, so these two angles are the same. We're trying to find the value of x. So if these angles are the same and these two angles also have to be the same, since they're like that. I forget what it's called, but when you see like this, that means like these two angles are the same and these two angles are the same. If these two angles are the same and these two angles are the same, that means that it's going to be like proportional to each other. So if we rotate it, we'll have 1400 and x, and then for like the other triangle we'll have 700 and 800. Basically, you want to make sure that these ratios are the same, since like the triangles are like proportional, or whatever the term is called. So as you can see, 14 to 7 is like, this is times 2. So you also want to do times 2 here to make sure that it's like all the same. So your x is going to be 1600. X plus y equals 9, x plus 2y equals negative 25. What is the value of x? So here we can do systems of equations. Since we did substitution before, let's do elimination now. So we can do x plus 2y equals negative 25 minus x minus y minus negative y, which is plus 9. So then we'll get y equals negative 16. We can plug that back into the original equation. So we get x minus 16 equals negative 9. And then so x equals 7. Because if you just bring the 16 over, that'll be 7. In a right triangle, one angle measures x degrees where sine of x degrees equals 4/5. So what is cosine of 90 minus x degrees? Well, this is pretty straightforward because sine of x equals cosine of 90 minus x. Since these two are equivalent, if this is 4/5, that means this is also 4/5. Yeah, I don't know why I was overthinking that. But yeah, 4/5, very straightforward. If a equals 5 times the square root of 2 and 2a equals square root of 2x, what is the value of x? So if we just multiply this by 2, we'll get 2a equals 2 times 5 square root of 2, which is 10 square root of 2. And then we'll find that this is also equal to square root of 2x. So that means that square root of 2 times something is equal to the square root of 2 times 10. So this one is also pretty straightforward, because if we think of like what is the square root of something that gives us 10, we can just think of it as like what is 10 squared, which is 100. So square root of x equals 10 is another way to think of it. And then if we do 10 squared equals square root of x squared, we're going to get 100 equals x. That is the no calculator section of the math section of the SAT. Walk through it, hopefully pretty quick. Hopefully that was within the time limit. But yeah, that was kind of just like my strategies as I worked through it, and kind of my thought process as I approach these different questions. So hopefully you were able to learn something and then maybe take something away that you can apply to your own test taking strategies. And yeah, good luck on the SAT.